Welcome to Big Ideas Small Business. We're here today and we're going to have a great discussion about the underpinnings, those things that are at the very bottom of marketing and communication. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen brings energy, focus, and creativity with the most cutting-edge tools and systems needed to grow business, drive profits, and achieve dreams. Ready to rise? Here's your host, Doreen Milano.
Today, our guest is Kelly Christensen with HCK2. Welcome, Kelly. Now, Kelly happens to be the Executive Vice President of Marketing
Insights and Strategy.
Right. So tell us a little bit about HCK2, because they're big in Dallas, right?
Right. We've been here for about 25 years, nearly 25 years, and we're female-owned and operated. We provide PR services, digital services, creative services, social media, everything except really media services, because we find that other agencies can get better prices for our clients. And so we're a full-service agency. We're in Vitruvian Park in Addison, Texas. And
so that includes, just so people are aware, you build websites.
Right.
You do social media marketing.
Right.
You do content marketing.
Right.
You help people create their email sequencing.
Yes, and we do strategies for all of those as well.
Awesome.
So we can provide the content, we can do the strategy, we can do pieces and parts of it. If you've already got your strategy, we can provide your content, whatever you need from a marketing perspective. Absolutely.
Very cool. Now, when you and I first sat down and talked about you being on my show,
right,
we talked about a lot of things regarding marketing, right? And I kind of gave you the task of telling us where are the true underpinnings of marketing? Because most of the time when we talk to somebody, we're getting this top level view.
Right.
And it's not anchored to anything.
Right.
So how are we able to understand what those underpinnings are and what's going on underneath?
I think it starts with your company's culture, making sure that companies know who they are or who they want to be. And it's not about flippantly saying, well, I sell widgets, and so, I don't really have to think about much more than that. Because if you're going to hire people to help you build the widget, to sell the widget, then you do need to answer some questions about who you are, what your mission is, how many widgets you want to build, for example, every year, what's the goal? And then people, if you point them toward a goal, tend to try to reach it or exceed it. And if you have incentives for them to do that, then that's even better, right? So it doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's services or products. You need to have a company culture that underpins that, and you need to define that as the owner, what the company culture is. So the culture begins at the top and it permeates all the way through the organization, but it can't even be communicated if you haven't thought about what it is.
Yeah, you cannot execute anything your brain hasn't already worked out.
Exactly.
Right? So when we're talking about company culture and as an owner, really understanding what culture is about. Right? And how to communicate that, especially to employees and especially to our market. Right? Now, Forbes has a study, and I think number 5 or 4 on the study of why businesses fail is the inability to actually communicate company culture and how you are going to interact with your market, right?
I'm not surprised by that. That's a great stat.
So when we're talking about company culture, one of the biggest challenges is understanding what the cues are from our employee base as to whether they understand and can move our company culture forward, right?
Right.
So what are some of the cues that your company helps communicate to the business owners and the management staff as to how this all kind of comes together with the employees?
Well, in many cases, we will have companies come to us because they're having a change in ownership or change in leadership inside the organization, and you'll have differing views about what the vision is now for the company, right? So you've got to get those people who are leading the company in the same room, and then together they need to come up with what their vision is. And it's really, really surprising the number of times that we find they actually agree on a lot of things, but they might have 2 or 3 things they don't agree on. And so the idea is to get them in a room, have them come to an agreement so that they leave in a half-day session with us, understanding, agreeing with what the culture is, and then being able to take that, we help them then take that to the next level of communicating that down to the employee base. And you can communicate that down to the employee base through all of the owned media that you have. So it needs to be on the website, in your social media, in your break room, at your door when people walk in, so that and it can be felt in the organization as well. Your mission and your vision statements can be felt. And then as far as culture being communicated to the outside world, ultimately I actually think that the best indicator that you've done a good job of identifying and communicating your culture to your employees is that you don't have to communicate it to the outside because they feel it. So if you think about brands that have done a great job, Disney does a great job, for example, of expecting everybody to go into character, right? And so the expectation is very clear. Everybody knows what their mission is when they put their costumes on at Disney every day, and then they live the mission of that brand. Southwest Airlines does the same thing. You know, they hire, they recruit around the whole idea of love, and that they love flying, they love their employees, they love their customers, and then, you know, the whole love campaign comes out of that.
Got it.
Right.
So one of the key elements that we often have to deal with as business owners is the reality that the culture will trump whatever strategy we've got going on.
Right.
And I've seen it happen time and time and time again, where the culture never comes, the strategy never comes to life because the culture is not supporting the strategy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
How does HCK2 and your group address those kinds of things? Because you are strategy.
Right.
Right?
Right. So if you have a situation like that where you have business owners scratching their heads, you know, the symptoms of something like that are that you're having a hard time retaining your employees, you are having a hard time recruiting the right employees, you have a difficult time having collaboration happen inside the employee base, right?
Right.
All those are the symptoms that the culture hasn't been communicated well or effectively. And so we actually can do a 360-degree key messaging strategy exercise where we talk to employees. We ask them about the brand, what their thoughts are about the brand. We ask customers about the brand. We ask vendors about the brand. Anybody that interacts with the brand, we go in and do interviews with them. Then we come back and address what doesn't sync up very well with what the intentions of the mission or the vision statement is, which drive the culture of the company.
Interesting. That's really great information to have. Mm-hmm. It's difficult sometimes when we look at culture and marketing and see how they sync up.
Right.
Right? And it's also difficult for business owners to really take that step back and look at culture, because we're all in the middle of the day-to-day minutia.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it's about this and that and the next thing. So let's take a moment. Let's have our audience look at some commercial and let us think about this a little bit more, because we're going to talk about languaging, we're going to talk about culture, we're going to talk about marketing all together when we come back.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? We're spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
So when we are talking about languaging, how important is it for us to curate that message so that everybody gets it?
It's super important. It's really important. It's one of the most important things I think you can do for your brand from an internal perspective, and then it permeates, if you do it well internally, it permeates outside to the external culture, obviously. So yeah, you need to do that. Some of the ways we do that at HCK2 is a gap analysis, where we can identify what your competition is doing and find out where you play in the sphere of your competition, and that's where you find your differentiation. And then you can pin your differentiation into your culture so that people feel really proud of what you do differently than all the other folks.
In that messaging, right? There's an example in business today where they're talking about recovery. Right? And if we look at the social connotations of recovery versus building or rebuilding, what is the difference in the feeling?
Well, I think recovery sounds like you were very ill and now you're coming back. Recovery is positive in the sense that you're not dying, right?
Right, absolutely.
But recovery compared to rebuild doesn't sound as positive, in my opinion. So I would, I think you're making a great point about the words you choose to communicate what's happening now is super important. And I will say that a lot of businesses have taken the time while everybody was sort of at home or coming up with their different hybrid approaches to business to redefine themselves. So redefine is another word.
Yes.
So redefine isn't necessarily negative. It can be super positive. And if you take the learnings that you got during the pandemic and you apply them based on what expectations are of your employees, they can feel heard and feel like you understand where they're coming from. So I think a lot of listening needs to happen now. Especially if you want to retain your best people, then sit down and ask them how they've been feeling, what they think is a great idea about how to move forward, how to rebuild, how to redesign, refresh the business, awesome. Words like that.
So what I'm hearing a lot about here in this discussion is how important relationship building with not only your clients, but your employees is.
Absolutely.
In the process of understanding culture and marketing.
Right.
Right? So how are we as business owners, how do we need to approach rebuilding the relationships we have with our employees?
Well, I think having an actual plan in place for the way that you are going to bring people back. And again, a lot of listening would be involved in that.
Right.
Especially with the people that you value the most inside your organization, making them feel as though they're heard throughout the process, and then applying, letting them see how you've applied their suggestions or recommendations for how you should come back to work. And you have lots of companies that are deciding to work from home exclusively.
Right.
You've got the hybrid approach, and then you've got the everyone's coming back approach. And the folks that are probably going to have the hardest time is pulling people all the way back, because there's different levels of comfort with regard to going all the way back into the work environment. So I would say that
As employers, we have to be cognizant.
absolutely.
And we have to listen.
Right.
And we have to understand what accommodations need to be made, not just for the employee, but if they are hesitant, our clients are hesitant,
Exactly.
right? And taking those cues is a really important piece. How do we acknowledge that and move forward with that, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's talking to your employees,
Right.
Gathering information from them, but then also helping them to understand as well, educating them as to what's needed by the
Yeah.
business, because it's not just about the needs of the employee. If the business needs people on site, they need to understand why people are on site. It's not a legalistic thing. We're requiring everybody to come back because we want you back. And make sure that you're tethering to that requirement why the business needs it, so that there is some sort of a common understanding as to why some people have to be here. The warehouse folks have to come in because things have to get shipped and put together and then shipped out, right? Pulled together and shipped out. Whereas maybe other positions and other inside the company do have the potential option to work from home a lot more naturally. And I would also say that, business owners need to just be aware of the fact that employees see themselves as having lots of choices. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you honed in on the people that are essential to your business. And that's not the position that's essential to your business, but the people, because people matter, and making sure that those people are retained. So keeping the retention up of the most important positions that you have so that you don't have too much disruption in the business.
Well, it also seems to me that fun and excitement are part of those core cues that you're looking for.
Right.
Right? So when we're looking for fun and excitement within our company and within our employee base, are employees having fun with the customers?
Right.
Are they having fun with the clients?
Right.
Is everybody smiling? Are they
Right.
joking around? Right? Are they creating an atmosphere that resembles the culture that you want to have in your company?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, are there some quick tips that we need to understand as business owners moving forward with regards to company culture, languaging, and how it comes together?
I would say my tip would be don't underestimate the power of a well-spoken and well-communicated company culture out to your teams or your employees, whether it's 2 people or 200 people. Don't underestimate the power of the ownership living that as well, because it
Absolutely.
starts at the top and then it permeates down. So there's going to be, just know that when the culture gets communicated, that the expectation will be that you, the owner, are going to live it yourself.
Yeah, you can't just set it and do something other than
Right.
what that culture is.
Right, and you don't set a culture for your employees but
and
not
have a
yourself.
different one for yourself.
That's right. That's right. So make sure that you know that, and then just make sure that you do everything in your power to communicate that culture across all of your media, all your owned media. And so that means social media, your website, any communications that you have internally to your employees.
Well, one of the things, I've worked with and for a lot of companies, and the companies with a super well-defined culture, where everybody knew what the culture was, when we hired somebody in that didn't quite fit in, we took on the job of schooling them into what the culture is.
Right.
And if they resisted, it was very clear because they were standing out all by themselves like a sore thumb.
Right.
And they were not part of the team.
Right.
And so we get to ask different questions about what the hire process is.
Right.
And how we choose to bring people into the team.
Right.
Right? Because we were brought in, we have a culture, we have a set of expectations for people who are joining our team, right? How are we communicating that? And is it really communicated with a welcome, or is it communicated with a you better or else?
Right. And I think that you're talking about an onboarding, right? And
right.
A really great a great idea would be to have solid onboarding programs, right? And solid onboarding would be a really nice welcome where there is an itinerary waiting for the person when they start, and then a 30, 60, 90-day assessment where they know they're going to sit down, where there is crowdsourced comments from the team members that they've worked with,
awesome.
So that you can get some sort of directional, especially with brand new people coming into the workforce for the first time who've never worked in an organized company. You'll find that there's just a naivete about how things work. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a 30-day sit down that says, hey, everybody says you're doing great. One of the things we want you to be aware of is sometimes you do this. That's against our company culture, and we would like to see you do this instead. So you never just give them the feedback of don't do this. You say, instead, our culture
go here.
Expects this.
Right.
So that you're very explicit about what your expectations are, especially for people coming right out of college and into their first corporate situation.
That makes it difficult, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to stop here for a break, and we'll be right back. And we're going to talk next about marketing and how this all comes together in one package. We'll be right back.
My American dream is to help you stay healthy and energized so you can live your American dream.
Our American dream is equipping future generations of American dreamers.
My American dream is to protect my community so they can live their American dream.
My American dream is to bring you some spice and flavor to your life.
Our American dream is ensuring what's most valuable to you.
Our American dream is creating opportunities for healthcare providers so they can have their American dreams.
My American dream is serving our business community and advocating for all of your American dreams.
The OBBM network acknowledges that this is a pivotal time in history, and it is clear the United States of America has been undermined by many of our elected officials for some time now. We want our local business audience to stand strong in the face of what we now understand, and to be empowered to grow our businesses on the local level beyond the limitations that have been imposed upon us. We believe it is in our national interest to inspire our communities through strong economic development, and additionally to hold our elected officials accountable for accurate representation of we the people. For that reason, we encourage you to go to WeStandForFreedom.com to learn about the National Write Your Congressman organization that has been the trusted communication tool for local communities for over 60 years. Learn how your representatives are voting. Understand the laws and regulations under consideration consideration on the state and federal level before they are enacted at the county and city levels. Communicate directly with these officials and stand up for yourself, for by doing so, you will protect the communities you serve from tyrannical rule and unconstitutional reforms. The OBBM Network is the premier voice for local business, and we take that responsibility seriously. The OBBM Network has everything you need to grow and transition your business for success on popular syndicated podcast networks, Roku and other video channels, and the OBBM Network app. We work for you, local business, and we've got your back.
Welcome back. Big Ideas Small Business, and we are talking about company culture and marketing, and we're going to hear right now from Kelly as to how all this starts to come together and becomes part of our marketing package. So take it away. I mean, we have talked about so much and it has been so interesting. How do we pull all these pieces back together into a cohesive message?
Well, again, starting with making sure that you are identifying what your culture is and what you are not. So, anything, the what of what you do in your business is easily commoditized. The why can't be commoditized. So you have to identify why you're in business, and there could be 100 different reasons of why you're in business. So, for example, at HTK2, female-owned, and she was our president, Heather Capps. She was a young mother when she started the business, and she wanted to have a culture that allowed young mothers to feel comfortable raising kids while working as in an agency. And marketing agencies are renowned for having awful hours, working 12, 13-hour days and things like that. So her commitment to our culture is that you work for your living, but you work in order to spend time with your family, which is very different.
That's huge.
Huge. Very different.
Huge.
Than any other agency I've ever worked for. So she lives that, she embodies that. Her daughters are grown now, but when somebody inside of our company has a child that needs to go to the hospital for their wellness check or something, there's not even a question that needs to get done. And I know that, having worked in other agencies, global agencies in my lifetime, that was something that was kind of a sticky wicket sometimes. Women would have to...
So she distinguished herself.
She does distinguish herself differently.
And her company in Dallas by being female-owned and having a culture that supports single moms.
Yeah, or mothers, or your ability to parent, and fathers, right?
Because, single fathers, yeah.
Yeah, actually not just single, just parenting, right? Because it's important that you put your kids first or your families first, right?
Absolutely.
And so she makes that really clear right up front.
So how does the marketing piece come together?
So what that becomes is then, let's just take that as an example, right?
Right.
That becomes one of the things that gets put into our cultural statement. It's 4 cultural statements, right? And so while we believe in charity and other things that we do every day for the work, one of the things that we do not do is expect the work-life balance to get off kilter. That doesn't mean that we don't ever work past 5:30. It means that, sometimes our clients need us to work till 10 o'clock at night. If that's the case, then we do that. But it's not an expectation every night that you do that.
Right.
Right? So it's explicitly stated in our handbook when people start. We require people to read the handbook, and then they have to sign it, and they understand that it's one of the 4 things that that is about our culture.
So what I'm hearing more than anything else is part of marketing is marketing to your employees.
Right.
First and foremost.
Right.
Getting them on board,
right.
Getting them aligned with who we are, what we do, and how we do it.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is an emotional connection.
It can create emotional connection, and that goes back to that why. Why is Heather Capps in business? And she says because she wanted to give marketers an ability to work in an environment that didn't require 24/7 commitment but allowed you to be a parent
Right.
while you earned a living as a marketer.
Huge.
Huge differentiation. So if we pin ourselves to that, then we can attract people that are looking for that.
So how many other marketing agencies out there have that first and foremost?
I don't know of one.
Which may be why Forbes focused on you guys as being the number one in Dallas.
That's interesting you say that, because I would say that's probably one of the reasons why we don't have we have great people that stay and work with us for a really long time, and our clients then stay a really long time, and that's not an accident, right?
No, it's not.
Right.
That is by design.
Right.
Right? So when we choose our culture, it becomes part of the underpinning of all the marketing that goes forward from that. And it will be part of public messaging.
Right.
It will be, that understanding will be part of our website messaging. It will be part of the core of our social media messaging.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So Kelly, how can we get a hold of HCK2?
You can go to our website at hck2.com, and there will be information about all of the work that we do, the types of businesses that we work with. We work with B2B and B2C companies. We work with small business to about mid-market sized businesses. And we provide some case studies as well on the website. So all the information is right there on the site.
And one of the things that you provide is a program that will help an entrepreneur, somebody in business,
Yes.
to have all this mapped out
Right. We do.
within
Yep.
a couple hours.
Yes, we sit down with and have a discovery session with business owners as part of our process, and we help them in that process help them to understand where we're going to take them, and then get agreement from them on whether or not they want to go where we think
They need to
we're going
go.
to take them. Right.
So stay tuned. There will be a second segment on this, and when it happens, Kelly will give us the insight on how to keep our website up in front of everybody, even under the changes that are happening by Google.
Right.
Is that right?
Google has changed their web vitals assessment, which means they've added 3 new things that they're going to be factoring in when they rank you for Google.
Ooh.
So you got to make sure.
So-
yeah.
Catch segment 2, and we'll talk about that then. Have a great day. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. We'll talk to you soon. The fact is, business has changed. Engagement has changed. And for us to recover our businesses and our communities, we have to engage differently. If you want to have a serious conversation about engagement, community, and your business, call me, Doreen Milano, Visions to Excellence. I'm an executive coach. You can reach me at 650-483-5798 or contact me online at v2e.biz. That's capital V, number 2, e.biz. Let's have a conversation.
This has been Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen Milano solves problems for small and mid-market family-owned businesses and service-based industries. To work with Doreen, go to v2e.biz. For guest and sponsorship information, call 650-483-5798. Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano is produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM Network. For OBBM Network programming information, call 214-714-0495. Unauthorized use of any part of Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano without prior permission through the OBBM network is strictly prohibited.